Before you get started in this tutorial, I need to let you guys know that you need prior 3D rigging knowledge and also the understanding of bone hierarchy when it comes to the usage of PMX Editor, since the thing is that when it comes to using the auto breathing add-on, you need to make sure you have the understanding on how to clean an existing 3D rig, making sure you organize the rig in the model, and also making sure that if there's any hierarchy issues with the model, that you make sure you know how to fix it. So please keep that in mind, and make sure to Google and learn more about that. I'll even try to have resources in the description to kind of help you out when it comes to the usage of MMD and PMX Editor, but please keep in mind to do your own self-research before attempting this tutorial. But if by any chance you need more direct help, by all means, I have my socials. But even then though, you need to have 3D rigging knowledge before attempting this tutorial. Another thing as well, if by any chance you are a Blender user or some other user other than MMD, and you are thinking about using this add-on for, you know, different uses other than MMD. So to kind of put it like this, you want to use this breathing add-on for Blender or Unity. It's not going to work. This breathing add-on only works for MMD only. It does not work with Blender, does not work with Unity, does not work for Unreal Engine, does not work for Maya, does not work for Cinema 4D, does not work on any other program. It's only for MMD, this add-on, because it's more based on the MMD physics system and its constraints, or at least what the constraints the program provides. But even then, there is technically, I put this in quotation, there's technically a Blender alternative to an add-on similar to this, which I do hope to eventually release a tutorial on the Blender alternative, which is more keyframe based and does work with Unity animations. So stay tuned for that tutorial in the future. But besides that though, let's go ahead and continue on with the tutorial, and good luck! Hey everybody! I hope you're all having a good day. I hope you're all smiling and enjoying your lovely day. So in this following tutorial, I'm going to be showing you guys on how to add the automatic breathing add-on to your MMD model, so that way you can bring more life to your MMD models. Now I will say, as a heads up right now, there is a written version of this tutorial. It's originally on the LearnMMD website, link in description. I'll also put text on the screen, basically for those who have hearing disability or you prefer text, that there is the LearnMMD article if you need that version. But I will be doing a visual version in case you need a more step-by-step or basically more of a how-to kind of guide, so that way you can do this in case you get confused with the written version. But even then, as you can see on my model right here, I have the breathing add-on on my model. You can see that without the need of hand animating it, and also no need to animate the keyframes manually, this model is breathing on its own. To kind of explain it in a nutshell how it's doing this, it's basically with the use of multiple bone constraints and physics underneath the model. That's basically how the character is able to breathe like this, to kind of just explain that in a summary. But basically what we are going to need in order to achieve this, if we're going to need two add-ons, which link in description, they are there. You'll need one add-on for one plugin for PMX Editor, and you'll need the other plugin to put right next to the MMD program itself, which I'll show you how to do. Don't worry. I do want to, before I get started, I do want to kind of show you on the controls and kind of go over a couple stuff regarding on some certain requirements. You can still kind of go around these requirements, but I will still explain them. So first and foremost, it is recommended that your model has 2 spine bones. My model has 4 spine bones, which is different. It's still using tube, don't worry, you only need like 5 or 6, but you need at least 2 of them in order to make the breathing look as natural as possible. If you only have 1 spine bone, technically you can still use the add-on, but it's just gonna look weird, so keep that in mind. What's also recommended is if you have the shrug bones, which you'll need the semi-standard bone plugin on PMX Editor, which if you have the English version, the newest version, it should already come with it. I'm pretty sure the old version still has it. If not, link in description for the downloads if by any chance. Other than that though, pretty much just in a nutshell, just have the basic MMD rig. If you don't know what it is, just check out a TIDA model pretty much, because Tita models are pretty much mostly using in the MMD community, so definitely use that model as reference as to the skeleton of the MMD rig. So yeah. But besides that, though, now that you kind of get an idea of the bone requirements, you can still, like I said, you can still go around it. Also, there's also some extras too that you can have. There's actually an ear and a chin section that you can have, but that's also not really required either. But still good additions if you want to make your model look more alive, basically. And yes, they do get animated by itself. Another thing also is that there are some blend shape or morph controllers. You can use these to make the breathing faster, like that, or you can make it delayed, like that. Basically, that's, you know, just simple morphs that you can use to kind of make the model look more real. So I could do kind of like this, basically, where it literally pans. So yeah, very cool. But why not, you know, let's go ahead and pretty much get started with installing the add-ons. Alright, so first things first, we are going to download the PMX plugin for the auto breathing add-on. Pretty much to make sure that you're on the correct page, it should show an ice dragon as the front page, and it should say version 1.62. What you're going to do is you're going to scroll all the way down, and you're going to click on the orange download button, and then you pretty much get a zip file either on the top right if you're Opera, or if you're Chrome, probably at the bottom left, depending on your browser, whichever it is. You should be able to get a zip file that contains the PMX file, which is the PMX file, which is basically the plugin. It's not like an actual plugin, like you have to go to the PMX plugins folder and then add it there. It's a PMX file that you put on your MMD model. And before you actually do end up putting, you know, going on and putting the breathing add-on to the MMD model, there are a couple stuff you need to do, especially with the deform bone values, which I'll go over. But there's also another add-on that we will also need to get to. We need this add-on too, which there is no image, sadly. However, this is the add-on for the MMD part for the auto breathing. So this is required as well if you want to make sure that the auto breathing works inside of MMD. So you'll also, same thing, click on the orange download button right here, and there you go. And that way, for this add-on, we're going to install it specifically for MMD itself, so that way MMD can read the bones from the auto breathing plugin and be able to make it work. Now let's go on ahead and get our model ready with the breathing add-on. So first things first, what we're going to do is we are going to make sure our model is open inside of PMX editor. If by any chance your model is in the VRM format, do keep in mind PMX editor and MMD does not open VRM models. You will need to check the video in the description, because I actually made a tutorial on how to convert VRM models to the PMX format using a Unity plugin, so please make sure to check out that tutorial. There's also a program that automatically converts VRM files to PMX with just a simple click. There's one version that is not as void specific, but then there's another one that is void specific to void stable models, if I'm correct. So please keep that in mind when using the programs that automatically do that for you. But you can use the Unity plugin for any model, even if your model's from scratch and non-void. Whichever, just choose the method that you prefer, but that's a heads up there if you want to put VRM into PMX. If you have an FBX file and you want to convert it to PMX, you'll need to use the MMD Blender plugin, and you'll need to make sure that you connect the armature and the mesh of that model into an empty, which is given from the plugin itself, and then you just export to PMX with that. I plan on making a tutorial on how to do that very soon, but With that being said, though, once you have your model here inside PMX Editor, we need to make sure that our model has the semi-standard bones, which we have a plugin for. So if you have the English version of PMX Editor, it should already be there. If you're using an older version of PMX Editor, you might not be able to have it, which link in the description. There is a link to download the add-on if you need to. But keep in mind, you can't be using PMD Editor to install the breathing add-on, otherwise it's not going to work because PMD is outdated. So go to edit, go to plugin, user, or whichever it's at. If I said that too fast, please pause the video for your convenience. Semi-standard bone plugin, and then semi-standard bones right here in the PMX. Do not choose PMD but PMX, and pretty much you can just add pretty much everything, because pretty much all of this is pretty much required even with just MMD motion in general, so best to have that. Now for my case, I've already added all the bones onto this model. There's pretty much the groove bone, mother bone, and controller bone there, and the twist bone, so pretty much everything is there. Now once you have that, before we actually do add the add-on, I am going to show you guys on the deforms, because this is very important when it comes to the breathing add-on, that you need to set up your deforms properly. Now, just to kind of set it as a rule, basically any bone here, whenever the bone is pretty much a non-IK, so you have your normal rotation bones or movement bones here, and then you have your IK bones, which is like the, your feet right here. That's pretty much the main thing. You'll have the IKs on your feet, unless you're using a Tita Miku and you have the IKs on the hair or something, or you're using IK arms or something by any chance. But basically, anything that's an IK, like these here, and even the D and EX bones, they count because they're also have the deform value too. But pretty much for IKs and D and EX bones, you need to set the deform value to 3. Make sure you remember that. D and EX bones and the IK bones here are 3. Now for this one's different because, as you can see, it doesn't have the deform of 1. If a bone is pretty much a deform of 0, you would have to set it to a number 2. So pretty much almost everything on this model, unless you have, like I said, it also depends on the model too, because like I said, every model is pretty much different. But keep in mind, pretty much everything can literally be 2, except the IKs and the D and EX bones. Those are the ones that have to be set to 3. So I'll do it here, select all this, and set it to 2. Simple as that. Now, I will say, the Learn MMD article did said that you are supposed to set these guys at 0, but actually, I have my model right here, and as you saw, my model was able to work on the breathing out just earlier. And for my model, I've actually set the control, the mother, and the groove bone, they're all set to deform 2. So you can set them to 0, or you can set them to 2. For that, it doesn't really matter. I would say the most important thing you'll have to keep in mind is pretty much the 2 spine bones, the head and neck, of course the lower body, your shrug bones, and if you have ear and chin bones, those count. Those are at least the most important you have to set for the deform. But even then, I would just set all of them to 2, just to keep it simple. But of course, really depends on the model too, because at least my model works with it, but your model may not work with it. So at least, like, I guess kind of experiment, but just set it to 2. Just to put it simply. So 2 for non-IKs, and for IK bones or DX bones, you set it to like for my model here, you set it to 3 instead. Simple as that. Nothing more than that. With that being said, once you have that set up, what you're going to then do next is you're going to then load the PMX file for the auto breathing out, and I'll show you real quickly how that looks like. Alright, so what you're going to do is you're going to go to File, Import, and then you're going to load the PMX file right here, which should have this name as the file. Just double click it and then import it. And once you have that, underneath it, when you enable the hidden bones, you should be able to see all the extra bones that contains all the constraints. And if you do, if you enable the rigid bodies and the joints, you can actually see that there are the rigid bodies and the joints that activates the breathing. So if by any chance you're wondering why sometimes your model's not breathing at all, even when adding the add-on, you might want to take a look at that guy. But don't overcomplicate it. But either way, though, there is that. Now, what we need to do before anything, we also need to make sure that we have to set up these bones. So all the way at the bottom, you just scroll all the way at the bottom. You need to make sure that these bones right here are set properly according to the parents. So we will need to make sure that we select the hip bone right here. So we'll start with the hip bone and then go to rotation, and you'll have to select a parent for it. So you have to scroll all the way down, find which one matches the name right here. So for my case, it'll be 408, 408. And basically it will make the bone blue, or at least darker blue right here. So that's what you have to do for the lower body. The two spine bones right here, or whichever you choose. I'm gonna, for the void model, because it has 3 spines, I'll choose one. I'll choose 2 and 3 spine. And you'll also have to set up the shrugs. And for void model, they don't have the ear bones or the chin bone, which is fine. But if you really want to rig it, you can rig it yourself in PMX Editor or Blender, but you really do not need it. But I'll show you step by step on how I'll do this. So we'll go ahead, shrug bone. So the right shrug bone, that number will be 413 for my case, 413. And I'm gonna check to make sure it's dark blue. Then I'm going to go do this one. So spine 3, the 3rd spine, which looks like this here. We're going to have that set as the spine 2, but like I said, it depends. I personally, if you have like more than 2 spines, usually I set to the top 2 spines, but it's entirely your choice. So I'll set the rotation. I will set this to 405. And for spine 2 right here for the void model, or your spine 1, rotation, 404. Then I'm gonna find the, let's see, so the right one, let's find the left one here, rotation, and then 412. And then let's find the head and neck. So here's the neck right here, rotation, 406, right there, correct? And then head bone, rotation, 407. And that's correct. So pretty much that's what you have to do next. And once again, make sure to double check that your deforms are correct. For non-IKs, make sure to set to 2. And for IKs or DNEX bones, you have to set to a deform of 3. So just remember that. But once you have that and you do the rotation parenting, because this is basically, in this section right here, this is technically PMX Editor's way of the constraints. And this is basically what, it's kind of like a secondary parent, if that kind of makes sense, sort of. But basically once you have that though, pretty much you are set on the breathing add-on. Do double check though, to make sure that that the breathing add-on, which looks like this, is registered. Usually I put this on top, but make sure that this is registered here, and make sure that you have all your bones and morphs registered. For my case, I did not have these extra morphs registered, so I'll do that. There you go. The extra morphs have been registered. And also, yeah, keep in mind too that once you have the add-on added, you will have these bone morphs here. This is what will control your breathing. And pretty much there's even the extra ones here as well, but yeah, there's the extras here. And just a heads up too, in the description, I do, in case by any chance you have, you are struggling on the English translation, because I'm assuming most people who are watching this tutorial only know the English. If by any chance you want a proper English translation, to these morphs, since PMX Editor has the EN box here and it's blank, I do have, the translations. So for the bones right here, you can actually, go to edit, batch name editor. You can go bone, and you can see how here they don't have the correct translations. Description has the I can show you right here. Should have the text file. Not only will I have it for the bones here, but I'll also have it for the morphs as well. What you'll need to do is you'll need to select, select everything, by, Control A and Control V, Control C on the keyboard, and then you'll have to scroll all the way up, find the bone that looks like this here, the breathe parent, and then you'll just have to Control V right here, and that way it'll pretty much translate everything. Press go, and you'll have properly translated, English bones. And once again, I should have another text file, for the morphs as well, so that way instead of seeing blanks, you'll actually, you can be able to copy and paste it, and you'll be able to see the proper English translation, so it'll help you. But yeah, that's just a heads up there. But yeah, pretty much you should be, pretty good to get started with the auto breathing. But before we do that, we need to make sure that we install the MMD add-on, which I will show you how it looks like when you're installing the other add-on. Alright then, so what we're gonna do next is we are going to make sure that right next to our Dance exe file that we have the full auto breathe installer right here. And this is pretty much just straightforward. Just extract the zip file, and you should be able to have the DLL and of course this other file here, which we don't have to worry about, but you'll just basically have to click and drag to the Dance exe here. I already have mine here already, but you'll have to basically just Control C, Control V over here, or just click and drag right next to the Dance file here. Now, once again, this really depends on where you set up your where your files are and stuff. So for my case, my Dance program is on desktop, project programs, and there's the file there. Yours may be different. Yours might be on desktop, or yours might be elsewhere, so please keep that in mind when you're trying to figure out where to place the add-on, in case you need extra clarification on that. But yeah, once we have that, we should be able to go ahead and open the Dance, and we should be able to begin with loading our model in. Alright, so once you have loaded your model into MMD, you should actually begin seeing your model actually move, which is very tiny movements, but as you can see when I zoom in, you can see the shoulders are moving, the head's moving, and this is a Void model, by the way, so simple as that. Even the spine is moving a bit, and once again, you'll have to, for my case, I didn't translate the blend shapes and the morphs, but once again, in the description, I should have the English translation. Make sure you go to the batch name editor and copy and paste the English translated names, so it'll help you out a lot more. And, you should be able to manipulate the, morphs here. Let me just kind of play around with this. But yeah, there you go. But once again, with the English translation, it will really help you. But yeah, pretty much, there you go. That's how you do the, that's how exactly you can be able to get the auto breathing in MMD. That way, now your model has life to it. It's a living thing now. So, yeah. But yeah, hope this helps you. Let me know if you have any other questions, because I know for some certain models there may be some issues. You may not be able to get working or something like that, because sometimes you may be adding a lot of stuff on your model, or your model's all has a janked up rig or something. So please keep in mind to always make sure to clean up your rig and make sure to keep everything as organized as possible, so that way you can make sure to prevent yourself from any of these issues. But definitely let me know if you have issues. Most likely, if you do have an issue, it's probably because you have an unclean rig, or maybe you're adding something that interferes with the add-on or something, or all that. And also, heads up too, I do want to make an extra note as well. I also want to make sure that you guys are aware that if by any chance you are, let's say you have a model here, and let's say I go to DeviantArt and I add like hair, or Tita hair apparently, which you shouldn't do to avoid model, but let's say for example you add some sort of random hair or something to the model, or maybe you replace the skirt or something like that, you know? Please make sure that every time you are adding something to the model, that this entire thing is at the bottom of the model. Otherwise, you're probably gonna frick something up and the auto breathing will not work. So from this bone here all the way to the bottom, make sure you press on the B button here to make sure it's at the bottom at all times. If it's not at the bottom, it's probably not gonna work. And if by any chance, if the auto breathing is at the bottom and your model still doesn't work at all, you might have to repeat these steps again just to make sure it does work. Because once again, if your rig is very janky or messed up or anything and it's not cleaned properly, the add-on's either probably gonna break or not work for you. So please make sure clean rig and everything. But yeah, if you need any help, feel free to comment down in the YouTube comments and I'll try my best to help you out in your situation. I do recommend, especially for 3D works, if you need help, please make sure, and I have my socials on screen. There's my Discord at #Fuigo or #Fuigo, #7158. You can DM me there, and I'll try my best to help you out on your situation. And if by any chance you prefer email, feel free. Usually I don't prefer email, but if you need to, go ahead. If you need to DM me on Twitter, I can also do Twitter as well. Just let me know that you want to DM me, and I'll invite you in the Twitter DM, and I'll try to help you as best as I can, so that way we can talk one-on-one. But I prefer Discord most of the time in case I have to call and demonstrate to you myself personally on how to do the steps to make sure you're doing it right. But yeah, if by any chance you have any recommendations for any future tutorials, feel free to recommend anything, and I'll gladly try to make a tutorial on that. Do keep in mind, I do have a very busy schedule, so I'll try my very best to make as many tutorials as I can. But yeah, with that being said though, heika, sayonara everyone, and I hope to see you guys next time, okay? Bye! Kinda, why are you hyperventilating, huh? Why am I hyperventilating? Why am I speaking in third person? Are you okay? You are never okay. I swear to goodness, I will just yeet you off a window or something. I don't know.